Okay, so let's jump right in. If you're someone who's put in the time with meditation, cultivating that deep inner silence, then this explainer is definitely for you. We're going to unpack a practice called Samyama, which is all about taking that peace you found and turning it into a real powerful force in your day-to-day life. You know this feeling, don't you? You have this incredible meditation, you touch that deep, quiet space inside, and then you open your eyes, get off the cushion, and poof, it's just gone. The calm evaporates and the chaos of the day rushes right back in. It's just so frustrating. And this just nails the problem, doesn't it? On the inside, we've got this world of deep peace and stillness, but on the outside, it's all constant demands, stress, and noise. It can feel like you're living two completely separate lives. So the big question is, how do you build a bridge between these two worlds? Well, believe it or not, that bridge actually exists. It has a name, and it's a practice designed specifically to reverse the flow, not to go deeper into the silence, but to bring that silence powerfully out into your world of action. And that bridge is called Samyama. The key thing to get here is that it's not about finding stillness anymore. You've already done that. This is about acting from stillness. So if you think of meditation as your journey inward, Samyama is the journey back out, where you learn to live, move, and create, all while staying anchored in that deep silence. This quote really gets to the very heart of it. This isn't about gritting your teeth and forcing things to happen. It's the total opposite. Samyama is, at its core, an act of surrender. It's about letting go of your own small, personal plans and allowing a much deeper, more profound intelligence to flow through you. Okay, so how does this actually work? What are the mechanics? Well, it's surprisingly simple, really. It all boils down to just two core concepts that you need to grasp. Let's break them down. So the first piece of the puzzle is the sutra. Now, don't let the Sanskrit word throw you off. A sutra is really just a code word for an intention. Think of it like a tiny seed of meaning that you just gently drop into the incredibly fertile soil of your inner silence, and you let that silence do the work. This chart just makes it all crystal clear. When we meditate, we use a mantra, right? A sound without meaning, which helps us let go of our thoughts and sink into that quiet place. But with Samyama, we use a sutra, a word packed with meaning, to kickstart action from that quiet place. They're two sides of the same coin, really. One goes in, the other comes out. All right, enough theory, let's get practical. How do you actually do this? This is the real how-to for building and crossing that bridge from your inner world of peace to your outer world of action. Now, the absolute key to this whole thing is step one, and how you do it. It has to be gentle. You don't concentrate on the sutra, you don't analyze it, you just faintly, almost fuzzily pick up the feeling of the word, and then you just let it go. You release it into your silence, and you rest. That's it. And this right here is so important. The vast majority of the practice isn't even the sutra itself. It's the 15 seconds of silence after you let the sutra go. The sutra is just like dropping a little pebble into a still pond. The real magic happens in the ripples, in that space of quiet release where your inner silence amplifies that intention and starts to move. And these are the typical sutras you'd start with. They're specifically chosen to create a really balanced approach to life. You've got these big spiritual concepts like love and unity, but they're balanced with the very practical, grounded stuff like health, strength, and abundance. It's about developing the whole system. Okay, now, a heads up. When you start moving this much deep energy, the results aren't always going to be just quiet, blissful feelings. The process of clearing out old junk, what we call purification, can get, well, pretty intense. The signs that you're making progress might not be what you'd expect at all. And this is a super important question to ask. Because as all this stillness starts to move outward into your life, it's gonna run into roadblocks, right? Obstructions in your nervous system. And when that stored up energy hits a blockage and starts to release, well, it can be really, really dramatic. And you just gotta love a quote that doesn't pull any punches. I mean, listen to that. Hopping around on the bed, roaring like a lion. And this is not a metaphor. This is a real physical thing that can happen. It's a sign that some really deep-seated stuff is getting cleared out in a very powerful way. So the absolute biggest takeaway here is to completely reframe these experiences. If you start shaking or suddenly feel this wave of emotion or your breathing goes wild, it's not a sign you're doing it wrong. It's the exact opposite. It is purification in action. It's a sign that the practice is working on a seriously deep level, clearing the path for that divine energy to flow freely. So, after all this practice, all this purification, where does it all lead? What's the end game here? What's the whole point of building this bridge in the first place? Well, it's about creating a single, whole, unified life. It all comes down to this one simple but incredibly powerful phrase: stillness in action. This is the end of that frustrating disconnect we talked about at the very beginning. Your inner state of peace and your outer life of action, they're not separate anymore. They merge into one seamless, beautiful flow. And these are the fruits of that unification. And we're not just talking about a nice feeling. This has real, tangible effects on your life. Obstacles just seem to dissolve. You find yourself acting with this deep sense of purpose, and the world just kind of responds. It's a life lived from a place of real, unshakable peace and power. Now, this right here is such a critical point. As you go down this path, you might experience some strange things, so-called powers or cities. But it's so important to remember that those are just the scenery along the way. They are not the destination. The real prize, the true fruit, is the deep, lasting purification of your nervous system. That is what paves the road to enlightenment. And that leaves us with this one last thought to really chew on. We so often think of meditation as this personal journey to find ourselves, to find our center. But what if that's only half the story? What if the real reason we work so hard to find that deep, silent center is so we have a stable, powerful platform from which we can change the world?